Hello and welcome back to another video. This time it's going to be my top games of the year. And there might be another video for this, but essentially in this one I'm going to be talking about the top games that I've actually played, then some of the ones that I want to play, and then I'll round it off with a few honourable mentions. Of course, I have not played every game possible. I've had a really busy 2 semesters, with the first semester of second year and the last of first year, just being damn busy, and that in combination with YouTube has really meant that I haven't got to play as many games as I usually would in a year, but I still love gaming, and I have 4 top games, or 4 of my top choices, I suppose. These are kind of in order from worst to best, but of course it's not really worst, it's sort of very fantastic to ultra fantastic. Anyway, the first thing on the list is Hearthstone Heroes of Warcraft, and I'm sure that a lot of you have noticed me play this quite a lot. And ever since I got into the beta, I've been playing it multiple times a week. I really have just had such a great time with the game. Arena mode is great fun and allows people to experiment with some really crazy stuff, and that's where I've been putting most of my time. Ranked is less fun to me, but it still is kind of enjoyable, especially given some of the new changes they put in with the ranking system. But still, for me, it's all about Arena. And cards themselves, I think the cards themselves are really what make the game great. Decks feel really powerful, and the synergy between cards, it just feels fun and fantastic to play. In terms of pay to win, Arena mode really isn't, and even in terms of the normal modes, you can do a lot with not that many cards. I was in 3 Stars Master, which was the, before they did the overhaul of the system, used to be the highest the highest tier for constructed play, before I even spent a penny on the game, just using cards that I got in a few different packs. Paying, of course, will allow you to get more cards faster, but this is just an inherent thing to card games, and also do remember that since you cannot specifically buy cards, it's not pay to win in that you can go in and buy a perfect deck. Okay, you can spend $500 and basically get every card in the game, but really, who's gonna do that? Maybe Total Biscuit. Actually, no, not even Total Biscuit. He did. I think he's on about $400 at the minute. I think Boogie2988 may have actually said that he spent enough to get every card in the game. But still, I think Hearthstone is a great game, and the pay-to-win thing, it's a collectible card game. I mean, it's not as pay-to-win as it could be, and I think it's balanced enough. You can play for free and be successful. Personally, what I recommend people do is that they play casual mode to do their daily quests to get gold, and then use that gold to play arenas. Arena is the mode that really capitalizes on how fun the cards of Hearthstone are, and by getting a random selection, it means that there's no real pay-to-win element there. It's a mixture of luck and then a mixture of how well you can choose, and the random nature just allows some crazy fun decks. In terms of other things, the game is ridiculously polished. Okay, there's a few visual bugs in the beta, but beta is beta after all. The music's great, it looks great, it's just a fantastic, polished, and very fun and rewarding experience. The next game is Shadow Warrior. If I was doing best FPS of the year, this would win. It is an absolute joy, just joy to play. You play as Lo Wang, who is a random dude who fancies himself as a total badass, and he basically is. It's great, like even the intro to the game is him just in his car singing, you know, "You have the touch," and it's just great. It's really great, and I can't sing, but it's fun, and that really, I suppose, sums up what the game's like in its approach to fun. It is about you being a badass, going around with a katana, and killing shit in the most enjoyable first-person melee combat system I have ever played. Once you get a few missions in, you'll start to unlock more katana abilities, and just the levels of fun, they really increase exponentially there. Now, there's also gunplay in the game, and for the most part, it's actually quite good. Weapons have alternate fires, and that sort of thing. I really like the revolver, because after you get one of the upgrades, you can kind of fire it like in a western film and rapid fire. I thought that was really cool. And the endgame magic system is actually kind of cool. You have some different abilities, and the way you cast them is actually very interesting as well. So there's one thing which is like a magically charged forward katana attack. To do that, you hit W twice and then left click, and whatever way this all just plays out, it feels really good. It's so rewarding, and everything feels great. When you kill enemies with a katana, they die as you would expect. They get sliced. And of course, if you kill something and it's just kind of standing there, it's not fully dead, and then you go ahead and fucking behead it because it looks cool, the game gives you points for that. It's nearly got a bullet storm. Actually, yeah, it does have a bit of a bullet storm style point system. It's a bit of a bullet storm light, but I suppose that does really make sense, because some of the developers for this game are actually ex-Bulletstorm devs, and Bulletstorm was a very fun game in itself. I would say, of course, this is exponentially better than Bulletstorm. So yeah, story-wise, I don't think anyone's going to care, and honestly, the developers know that. The main character is basically just kind of like a douchebag who's like, fuck yeah, I'm a badass, and he's got this demon guy who kind of follows him in a mask, and the dialogue's really fun there. There's constant, like, the cracking of jokes and being light-hearted, and it does a great sort of... It's got a great synergy with the combat, because the game knows that it's just there to be fun, and it has just bucket loads of the stuff. It also comes with a really great survival mode. It is a wave-based arena kind of thing, and it just works really well with the game's mechanics. Next we have Bioshock Infinite, and really, this is an excellent game in my opinion, and I know that it is very popular to hate in this game, but I will say I loved it, and I'll admit that combat is not its strong point, and I do have some things to say. First of all, in terms of games, I am normally very much mechanically driven. However, if a story reaches a certain level of exceptional, if the world is a certain level of exceptional, then I will actually be able to forgive some of that sort of stuff. That's probably a bit of a flaw in me as a critic, but this is really my personal list, so if you disagree with it, then guess what? Humans have different opinions. Deal with it. So, first of all, the world was everything in this game. Columbia was beautifully realized. It was backed up with some great sound assets, great art, great story and world building. Everything just felt like a really cohesive world. The introduction to the game was absolutely fantastic, and the opening section is amongst one of my favourite out there. I especially love the parts in the game where we were just walking around the populated areas. There was no combat, no nothing like that. There was just some nice music with maybe a violin in the background, or the time in the barbershop quartet appeared, and it's just the people of Columbia. They were my favourite parts of the game, especially the intro one and then the beach scene. I thought they were really, really cool. And it is, I suppose, a pity that they let the city fall into disarray, A, so quickly, and B, without any transition. It was just kind of, it went from perfect to absolute shithole in absolutely no time, and that was definitely a key narrative flaw in the game. Now, in terms of characters, there is a bit of a mixed bag. Booker is pretty decent, and really, that's okay, because Booker is just the medium through which the player can experience the game, hence the first-person perspective, and I think it works well enough. Booker has enough of a character to give structure to the person the player is playing, but he still leaves enough room for the player to sort of project their own little slant in the character, and that means that it's the player, like yourself, that is kind of connected with Elizabeth, who is the other main character, and she is wonderfully acted with fantastic dialogue. They really did an excellent job of making her feel like a real person with real desires, emotions, and that sort of thing. This was still while having the game set in a thoroughly absurd set of circumstances. I just thought Elizabeth was great, and I know that sometimes she was boiled down to being a vending machine in terms of gameplay mechanics, but for a lot of time, as a character, and in just the little set bits of dialogue, she worked really well. Especially towards the ending, the exposition from Elizabeth was interesting, it was kind of chilling, it was just so many things all boiled up in one, and it was great. The some of the just emotional I suppose story, like character development for her is great. I'm not going to do any spoilers, but there is definitely one moment. Anyway, so next we have Daisy Fitzroy and Comstock. These guys are both characters that could have been explored a lot more. They were really quite one-dimensional, and they were fun for what they were, but I think there's definitely some missed potential there. Now, shooting was very, very mediocre. In fact, it was the worst part of the game in my opinion. I played mostly in hard, which I think was the right decision for me, as a mechanically focused gamer. You were forced to be mobile and use all the powers at your disposal, and it really was kind of fun in that regard. There was a lot of tension via the resource scarcity in larger fights, which would intermittently be broken up by Elizabeth passing you maybe a thing of salt or something like that, and overall I was okay with it. I think if the game had have had more fun shooting, it really would have fared a lot better. I also think that, really, if you're playing this game, the nice thing about hard is you're put into a situation where you actually need to use your vigors and use every ability you have and use the interplay between them. But I would recommend, though, you should either play this game on hard to get the full use of those mechanics for what they're worth, or you should play in easy just to get rid of the combat and get through it as quickly as possible to get onto the story. I also think that skyhooks, and that whole skyline system, was fantastic. It was very fun and painfully underutilized in the game. Now, the ending was perfect for me. I love cerebral endings, and this one absolutely did not disappoint me. I'm not going to go through any of it in specific, just for the sake of spoilers, and honestly, there's a lot more to say about this game, and I'm sure I've missed stuff out, but this is just meant to be a quick little 2 or 3 minute summary of things that I liked. And I know I did get a little bit negative there towards the end, but basically, on the whole, the stuff with Elizabeth, the stuff with the world, and then the stuff with just the story and the sort of things it was tackling. Plus, one thing that's also to mention, the setting, for me, it had a lot of, it had religion, racism, a lot of kind of more bigger issues, and okay, maybe some of them were not handled as deftly as could have possibly been, but I really appreciate that, I appreciate that how well they did pull it off. I think they pulled off a lot of stuff better than many games have, and overall just came together to work really well. I mean, you do get a look into this world where you see the pristine places that are full of the happy middle-class white man, etc. And then when you actually go and see the Vox Populi and a lot of the other ethnic groups who were historically subject to a lot of terrible, terrible circumstances, it does actually build up a good sort of picture of the disparity there, and it's a game that is in some ways very critical of the worst parts of humanity, especially in our history, and I really did appreciate that. Now, speaking of games that are often very critical of humanity, we have my number one game of the year, The Last of Us. I absolutely love this game. I adore it in nearly every single way. While Bioshock Infinite really had this sort of intellectual story, I think this game had by far the most human story, and the best human story I have seen in a game. Joel and Ellie are both beautifully and brilliantly realised characters who are acted superbly. Their drives and emotions feel both real, and they are understandable and relatable. Both voice actors put out a hell of a performance, and it really just does bring the characters to life in such a great way. Troy Baker has some really fantastic moments, especially at the beginning, near the end, and then a bit at the very end. The guy is he is in so many games. Of course, he also plays Booker in Bioshock Infinite, and he's in so many things. He plays the scoundrel in Diablo 3. But yeah, Troy Baker is great. And then for Ellie, Ashley Johnson plays the character fantastically, especially towards the end when the character comes into the fore and has a little bit more emotional strife towards the latter portions. Ellie is one of those characters that just feels so real, and is so well written and so well realised that it just stands out as being particularly brilliant. So yeah, Ellie is a fantastic character and is in many ways what sells this game. Gameplay-wise, I did love it, actually, I really did. And I played it on hard the first time. The resource scarcity meant that there was a ton of gameplay decisions that were created because you really had to think about what you did. Do you use a Molotov cocktail in one combat situation? Well, if you do, then there's a bit of an issue because the alcohol from the Molotov cocktail could be used to make bandages or medicine or something like that. So yeah, I thought that was definitely really cool, and I've seen that some people have been very critical of shooting mechanics. Honestly, I think they were needed. Weapons sway, and they have strong recoil, and this really, to me, emphasized first shot accuracy and intensified the feeling of struggle and tension throughout the combat. It really did feel a lot like survival and people scraping by, even in the combat. Overall, I thought this was great for just building tension in the game and making every combat sequence feel... well, I suppose just feel tense. Tension is one of those words where in a game review, you're going to end up saying tension a lot because it's such an important part of a combat system, and especially within the world that The Last of Us was set, it's so relevant. Stealth 2 was fantastic, and I especially love how stealth was handled so that you could avoid combat, but if you avoided combat, sure, you don't kill a guy, but that's at the loss of whatever resources were on your opponent, or perhaps they were guarding. And this really brought out the whole every man for yourself survival aspect of the game, and sometimes you do end up thinking, well, I could kill that guy by stealth or just by hitting with a brick, and I could get some resources. It's selfish, and it makes you feel like a bad person, and it's really well done. Also, melee combat was very brutal. This game's approach to death was just so stark. It was a great move that really reinforced how bleak and depressing the world's outlook was. And then finally the ending, and just the story. It was all human, brilliantly human, and it was very mature, I suppose, about how it did a lot of things. I can't spoil the ending, obviously, but this is a game which you should absolutely just play the thing. It's fantastic. Now, the next section of this will be games that I want to play. Actually, no, it won't be. It'll be honorable mentions. Then I'll do games that I want to play, because really I didn't get to play everything I wanted to this year. So, honorable mentions. We have Civilization 5, Brave New World. I love Civ 5, and I think this expansion particularly was great. All of the overhauls to systems and AI improvements that it brought were fantastic, and for me it added on another 40 to 50 hours of gameplay. I especially enjoy going for the cultural difficulty, and in combination with everything else, they really have made Civ 5 from being the mediocre Civ game to being another great Civ game, and that makes me happy. Next we have Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. The pirate elements in this game are great. Roaming around the sea and having crazy pirate battles are just a total joy. Ship mechanics are well realised, and the upgrade system is actually quite compelling. The melee combat is the usual kind of mind-numbingly easy thing, and it's generally the sort of terrible affair that it has been in a lot of the other Assassin's Creeds for me. There's no tension built there because you're essentially just going to win. It's a predetermined sort of thing in combat in that game, which is really unfortunate. Still, this game does offer a lot more than the previous Assassin's Creeds, especially 3, and basically it cannot be on my game, like my top list of games because of the inherent Assassin's Creed problems like the combat, but it's still a great time and it's totally worth buying. The next thing is Metro Last Light. This is graphically stunning, it's got a pretty good story and an excellent atmosphere. I had a great time with this game, and if you can find it discounted, it's totally worth it. At full price, it's a 7 to 10 hour single player sort of experience, and maybe a bit short for some, so you might want to get that at a discount. Voice acting is a bit rough, but that wasn't a massive problem for me. The game's post-apocalyptic world is excellently realised, and it just does a great job of pointing this really bleak outlook for the future. It's also got some pretty, really relatively solid, I guess, shooting mechanics, which is always nice. And overall, yeah, it's just a ton of fun. The next game on my list is the Stanley Parable. This is the one thing that's going to get a lot of people to rage at me. So essentially, Stanley Parable is something everyone's been putting at the top or near the top of their top 10 list, and it just cannot make it in there for me. I think it gets an honourable mention for what it's trying to do and that sort of thing, but I only just played it about 2 days ago, right? And I was really looking forward to it. I hadn't heard anything about the game itself, and I had the problem where I instantly got what the game was saying. I instantly understood basically every ending, and before I'd even experienced them, because I just knew what was going on. The story, what the developers were trying to say, the narrative, the sense of humour, it all just clicked with me at once, and I was like, oh yeah, that's what they're doing. And the game ceased to surprise me anymore, and that's really kind of sad for me because I was looking forward to it, and from what I see, a lot of people love the fact that the game constantly is surprising them when they're doing other things, but I guess it's just a problem with me in general. A lot of the things that this game pokes fun at, in regards to the game industry, are things that I personally poke fun at the games industry all the time anyway myself. So I was just able to instantly understand parts of it, and there was just no sense of surprise or wonder or anything like that. I mean, sure, they did some clever things, and in terms of endings, I have experienced about 16 of them so far. I got about, I think 13 myself. I wrote them down on a little list, actually, because I knew I was going to talk about this game at some point. But yeah, I don't know, it's weird, and I don't know what the word is to describe how it just clicked with me, because it's clearly not, I was so intelligent, I just instantly understood everything. Yeah, no, it's not that. I think it's just when two things, perhaps maybe me and the game were just too well aligned in terms of what we think, and that really is unfortunate for me. But I'm sure if you play the Stanley Parable, you will find it to be very enjoyable. Because by all rights, I should have loved it. The voice acting's great from the guy, all that stuff, so I don't even know what the hell's up there. Anyway, next we have Star Conflict, and this is a bit of a kind of lesser known game. I love space games, and this one was a ton of fun for me. It's basically just a space team versus team shooter sort of thing, and it's really sad that it didn't really catch on as much as I think it should have. The combat felt great, and ships fulfill loads and loads of different roles. I thought that the free-to-play model was actually quite fair, and graphically the game just looks great, and I enjoyed pretty much every mode the game had available. So yeah, Star Conflict, fun game, go and play it. It's free to play, it's just good. Next we have Payday II. This is again a game that I really liked. It's great fun with real life friends, and I actually thought it was pretty hard, and it required a lot of strategy to get through some of the tense fighting sequences. Good planning and execution were rewarded with a sense of success that was, well, just really damn rewarding, I suppose. Not only in terms of the fact you get lots of money, but also the way that it feels great to pull off something, and I just think the game really captured that quite well. Of course, winging it and just going in guns blazing is also a lot of fun too. Now, while this is a game that I thought was very fun, it doesn't really have enough longevity and staying power for me to really just sort of shoot it up to being the best of the best. Anyway, next and finally I'm going to talk about the games that I want to play that I know are good. So, Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons, based on what TollBiscuit and Adam Sessler have said, I really need to play this, so I'm just going to get some free time over the holidays and pick it up. It's best played with a controller, and it's about two brothers. They're trying to save their father, but the cool thing is each thumbstick controls one of the brothers, and apparently it's just fantastic, and there's even parts where it uses the controller nearly as a part of narrative, and it just seems really cool, the integration of the control method and the story, so that's great. Gone Home is something that I want to try. I'm not too sure if I like it because it is mechanically quite weak. However, I think that it's probably worth seeing just to know what the fuss is about. Basically, you play as I think, I don't know what age, I don't know, something like women or 20s or 30s or something like that. And you come back to your house and you realize everything's gone. And you basically just look around the place and it tells this story via the things you find in your house. And it seems quite cool. Next we have XCOM Enemy Within. I had a great time with Enemy Unknown, and now that I have the free time, I really just can't wait to play Enemy Within. Firaxis always do add a lot more depth with their expansions, and I've heard that this really is a great thing across the board, and it breathes a lot of new life into the original game. I'll probably be playing it on one of the harder difficulties, because I think XCOM really just works best at the hardest difficulty. Just the thing, you know, the permadeath is more scary, I suppose, when it's harder. Then next we have Rome 2 Total War, but only when patched. Oh, Rome 2. Some questionable design decisions, a bucket load of bugs, bad AI, and terrible performance. Well, the good news is that 8.1 patches later, they are doing better with AI, they're doing better with performance, and they're also doing better with bugs. And then, hopefully, from what I hear anyway, a lot of mods will take care of the design issues. So it seems like this game's been patched up to the point where it's probably a Total War that I can enjoy, and this is actually one of my most disappointing games of the year on its release date, but I'm kind of keen to just jump into it and see what all the fuss is about. Anyway, that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you think that, I don't know, what were your top games of the year? Leave them in the comments. If you think that I am a pretentious bastard for not thinking the Stanley Parable is literally Jesus and, I don't know, the big elephant dude all put in together and sprinkled with chocolate, then, I don't know, dislike the video and scorn my name or something like that. Because, hey, it's the internet, and if you try to say anything that's not the base, like the baseline, you'll be attacked. So yeah, come at me, bro. Top 10 lists, they really are the best place to piss off fanboys of anything. That said, I really did play the safe one by having The Last of Us and Bioshock Infinite both in mind, though I'm pretty sure I'm going to get lots of flack over OMG, Bioshock Infinite was so bad. Ugh. Whatever, I had fun, it's my own list. Anyway, cheers for watching, and have a happy Christmas, / holiday, whatever, and I'll see you next time.